I have a confession to make. And confessions are always hard and have a certain aspect of humiliation attached to them. And that's even the case in this instance. Hi, I'm John McNeil. This is the Invest Strong Network. Welcome. So, I must confess that at one time, and it pains me to say this, I actually opposed Medicare for all. Because see, I had been under the influence that, well, this thing is too expensive. It's socialized medicine. It is in big government taking over your life and all of this stuff. And so by reflex, my understanding was no way, absolutely not. Even the Obamacare structure, wasn't all that crazy about that. I mean, very complex, really expensive, some of these Obamacare plans and things like that. And so I was kind of influenced by that propaganda. But the CV-19 crisis has changed everything, right? And I have seen the light. You see, myself, like many millions of other persons over the last 6 months, have been basically thrown out of work because of the CV-19 crisis. Now, I received my health care coverage through my employer, like most people do. And my employer was covering the cost of the health care for a period of time when they thought that the CV-19 crisis would be temporary and that they could reopen and get things going in fairly short order. And so they would call back their employees at that time. And basically, there was some amount of continuity to it. But that never happened. And in fact, here in Texas, Houston area, the situation got worse and worse and worse, and really continues to get worse, even going into the fall now. And so now millions of persons, including myself, it may be months, if ever, they get their work back, right? Well, what becomes of their healthcare coverage? Well, many of them, myself included, have lost their health care coverage. And the options of trying to regain it are almost impossible. I mean, I've spent my adult life in the hospitality industry, hotels and restaurants, and none of them, no hotels, very few restaurants, bars, banquet halls, even the museums, cultural sites, things like that. None of them are hiring, right? None of them. They can't, because they can't handle. Some of them are actually, by law, they cannot reopen. But even the ones that can reopen, they're so restricted that it's unprofitable. So if it's going to be unprofitable, why would you even bother, hiring people to do this, right? Now, there are other options out there where you can, like myself, I mean, there are jobs, that might take you on, right? But they'll tell you from the start, hey, we don't know where the CV-19 thing is going, and we're expanding our employment at this point, but if we need to be able to downsize, we don't want to have a bunch of permanent employees, filling our payrolls if in fact we need to downsize sometime in the future. So we are going to hold you as either a temporary or part-time employee. By the way, no medical benefits for you, mister, right? Okay, that really, really sucks big time. And I don't know how many other people out there are in the same position I'm in, but I certainly get the feeling there are a lot, right? Now, taking issue by issue, They have said in the past that Medicare for all is just too expensive, right? But this, if the CV-19 outbreak has taught us anything, it's that these governments can find a way to pay for stuff if there is a will, right? So if the airline industry and the cruise ship industry and the banks and financial institutions, if the government with the Federal Reserve can find some way of pumping trillions of dollars into their coffers to keep them fluid, there's some way they can pay for Medicare for all, right? So even if the government had to create Medicare bonds, right, to pay for this thing, and then have the Federal Reserve basically print the money or create the digits to buy the bonds to keep the program liquid, which is what they're doing for a lot of these banks and ETF makers and housing bond issuances and things like that, mortgage companies. They could do something like that for Medicare for all, in my opinion, right? And provide healthcare coverage for all these millions of people who've lost their coverage because they've lost their employment, right? So and then another issue, people say, well, this is a government takeover of healthcare, right? But wait, really, the government's been taking over a lot of stuff lately, right? I mean, like I mentioned, they're pumping trillions of dollars either directly or indirectly through the Federal Reserve into hither and yon portions of our economy. And people just don't seem to have a problem with that, right? Well, wow. To me, that those funds would be better utilized providing some kind of healthcare coverage for people who basically have no way of getting it at this time, right? Or maybe even in the future, for that matter. Now, then they're saying, this gives the government an entree into your personal life because they'll be paying for your medical coverage. Really? Well, look at it this way. Whether it's one of the private insurance providers, Aetna or United Health or Anthem or whomever, they have entree into your personal life because, you get your medical coverage through them. Does that keep you up at night? It should, right? But if you don't have a problem with them having an entree into your personal life, why is a government program so much more offensive? I don't know. At this point, I cannot figure that out. You see, I really can't. So I sit before you, or stand before you, a chastened, humbled, and corrected person, right? And so if some kind of Medicare for all or even Medicare for many program can be developed and put out there to the people, that would be greatly appreciated at this time. And one last thought about this, as over the last month or so, the powers that be in Washington, the Congress, even the administration, they have been grappling over whether or how to extend unemployment benefits for those persons that it's either expired at the end of July or will be expiring, the state benefits sometime in the future, unless the state governments give some kind of extension to their programs. They've been grappling over how to do that and how to pump stimulus into the economy. Very rarely have I heard, in fact, really, I haven't heard at all, the factor of how to provide medical care coverage for the people who've lost their coverage due to the CV-19 pandemic. Hadn't heard anybody talk about that. And I would think that would be right up there. I mean, to be honest with you, I would prefer that they keep the $1,200 check, that they sent back in the spring, keep the $1,200 check and use that to provide some kind of medical care coverage for people who've lost their jobs. That's just my opinion. But I'm saying I would much greater prefer that, right? All right. So those are my thoughts, right? I'm humbled. I'm chastened. I've seen the light, right? Well, and those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Please, if you are like-minded or if you have certain thoughts on the issue, put that in the comments. I'd love to read them. Let me know what you're thinking. Smash the like button, please, please, and subscribe. Please subscribe. All right. Thank you so much, and good luck.